You know what's fascinating about Pakistan's upcoming budget? It's like watching someone try to juggle flaming torches while walking a tightrope. They're attempting to balance IMF demands with economic growth, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
Looking at these numbers, they're really pushing the envelope, aiming to increase tax revenue by nearly 21% while keeping inflation under 7%. That's quite ambitious.
Well, what really jumps out is how they're approaching this through sector specific reforms. Take the banking sector, they're planning to slash that massive 54% effective tax rate to bring it in line with standard corporate rates.
Hmm. But how do they plan to make up for that lost revenue?
That's where it gets interesting. They're introducing this clever mix of new revenue streams. There's the carbon tax at 5 rupees per liter, plus a new 3 to 5% GST on petroleum products. And get this, they're finally implementing an agricultural income tax through the provinces.
The timing of these petroleum taxes seems pretty strategic, especially with global oil prices where they are.
Right? And they're offsetting these new taxes with some pretty substantial relief measures, like doubling the exempt income limit to 1.2 million rupees annually, and that housing finance subsidy for 200,000 units.
Speaking of strategic moves, their approach to the tech sector is fascinating. Extending that final tax regime for a full decade could really boost their digital economy.
Oh, exactly. And when you combine that with their plans for the textile sector, you can see they're trying to modernize their export base. They're looking at restoring that 1% final tax regime for exporters down from the current 29% corporate rate.
Well, the pharmaceutical reforms caught my attention, too. Moving to a zero-rated regime could have major implications for healthcare costs.
You know what's really telling about this whole budget? The way they're handling that central bank dividend, any amount over 1% of GDP goes straight to debt reduction. That shows serious commitment to fiscal discipline.
Though managing that while targeting 3.6% GDP growth seems like quite the balancing act.
That's where those sector-specific reforms come in. Like that fixed monthly tax on retailers, 20,000 rupees for large ones, 10,000 for smaller ones. They're clearly trying to broaden the tax base without crushing any one sector.
The overall budget reduction of 10.6% year over year is pretty dramatic, though.
Well, here's what makes this budget so crucial. They're not just cutting spending, they're restructuring the entire revenue system. That fertilizer industry change, doubling the federal excise duty to 10%, shows they're willing to make some tough calls.
So, what do you think this means for Pakistan's economic future?
Looking at the big picture, they're essentially attempting economic surgery while the patient is still walking. That current account deficit target of $1.5 billion is ambitious. But if they can pull off this combination of revenue generation and targeted relief, it could reshape their entire economic landscape.
Well, June 10th is going to be quite interesting when all this becomes official.
You know what's really going to determine success here? It's not just about the numbers, it's about implementation. They need to maintain that delicate balance between fiscal discipline and economic growth, all while keeping the IMF happy and their own population supported. That's no small feat.